Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Great. So,
Good morning, sir.
good morning, Abhishek. So, is this your first class in this for this group?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So, welcome to this program. It's a very interesting program, and I'm sure you will find it very useful. So, maybe we can start with a short round of introductions, and then we will get started. So, Abhishek, since your name starts with A, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, sir. I am Abhishek Tiwari. Good morning to all of you. I am Abhishek Tiwari. I am currently working as a group learning partner in Dr. Reddy's. I am having a 24 years of experience. I had worked as a zonal sales manager earlier, and from last 3-4 years, I was into the training function.
Okay,
So
great.
that is all
Welcome.
good. Thank you very much, sir.
Great. Welcome, Abhishek. Ganesh, would you like to go next? Okay, I think Ganesh is not able to hear us. What about Himanshu?
Yeah, good morning, sir, and good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm Himanshu Pajare, basically from Nagpur, Maharashtra. And from last 3 years, I'm working as a freelancer trainer, and I'm doing more soft skill project for schools and engineering colleges. Right now, also, I'm in the Hyderabad doing the project in Guru Nanak College. And I'm doing this PG diploma to enter into the L&D and for a corporate training. And for that purpose, I'm doing this diploma. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Himanshu. Welcome to the program. Minal, would you like to go next?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Meenal. I'm from Pune, and please bear with me. Right now, I'm traveling, so if I lose my connection, so bear with me. I work for engineering college. So earlier, I was a typical engineering professor for ENTC department, and for past 3 years, I am now working as in soft skill development. So yeah, that's all about me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Minal. Okay, Geeta, would you like to introduce yourself? Geeta, would you like to introduce yourself? Okay, I think
Good morning.
Yes, Madhu, good morning. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, sir, sure. Myself, Madhu, I'm working as an assistant manager in L&D in Swami Rama Himalayan University, Dehradun.
Oh, okay, great, wonderful. Welcome, Madhu. Okay, Shivali, would you like to go next?
Sure, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Shivli Dev from Mumbai. I am working currently as manager human resources for past approximately 1 year. But I majorly have experience in training and development field.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shivali. Vijay Raghavan, would you like to go
Hello.
next?
Yes, sir. Good morning,
Yes.
sir.
Morning.
So I'm from Chennai. I'm working as a regional sales manager in Aquasma Derma company. I'm in
Okay.
this pharma industry for past 19 years.
Okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. Would anybody else like to introduce themselves?
Yes, sir, Ganesh here. Sorry, there was something going on in the morning.
Okay, no problem.
I'm joining and I started a video, but something it is not starting. My name is Ganesh Jagnade. I'm from Pune.
Mhm.
I'm working in a software company called Fujitsu as a project manager.
Mhm.
And I'm working with the other language like Japanese with the client. And
Okay.
to join this course, it is just out of curiosity, like how to give the knowledge to the others. I do not have any relation with the training and development in my organization. I'm
Okay.
in delivery. So it is just out of curiosity, I'm learning this. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, wonderful, Ganesh. So,
Sir, good
what I have
morning.
learned is that, whenever you do a course, yeah, Naveen, go ahead.
Good morning, sir. Myself, Naveen. I am from Kanchipuram, Tamil Nadu. I am working currently with the public sector insurer. Previously, I was working with the public sector bank. I have 14 years of experience in the financial sector. Since I want to move to my corporate training center, so I have taken up this course.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Welcome, Naveen.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anybody else
Yeah.
who we missed?
Hi, my name is Geeta Chaudhary.
Okay.
So I'm working with a MNC company. It's dealing into BPM, business process management for IT services.
Mhm.
So I'm working as an India leader like DGM training and quality. So I've enrolled for this course to learn more about training. This specific course is like to improve the performance, like reducing attrition and everything. So how we can improve the performance of an employees and what initiative we can take. So I was keen to learn more about this so that I can contribute to my
Right,
organization.
great. Mhm. Wonderful, Geeta. So
Thank you.
I'm sure this course will be able to help you.
Indeed.
Yeah. So as I was talking about Ganesh's, Ganesh has said that he doesn't really have anything directly to do with learning and development, but he's doing this course because he would like to eventually teach, and he's learning Japanese. So what I have noticed in my career is that even if you do courses which may not be directly connected with what you're doing, it really helps you in some way or the other. So I'm sure for those who are directly connected with training and those who may not be directly connected with training, it's going to help both the groups to learn, to improve whatever they are doing, whichever department they are in. So yes, thanks, Ganesh. So I will introduce myself. My name is Dipankar Das. I have about 29 years of work experience in various companies, including IBM, GE, Tata Projects, Hero Group. So it's been a fairly long career, spanning many companies and 3 decades. So I have largely been associated with HR and learning and development. And I have a book which is available on Amazon. It's called Cracking the CSAT Code at the Call Center. So that is about how you can use training more effectively to improve customer experience. So what we will do in this class, talent management, is that we will look at what talent is all about and how we can manage it better so that our organizational performance improves. Okay. Any other expectations you have, from this course, please feel free to share. Okay. So yeah, Himanshu.
Sir, small request because some of us is not from the HR background and we want to learn this topic. So if you add some layman examples, so it will be very useful for us.
Yes, definitely, definitely. See, the good thing about most of HR and any subject which is kind of taught well is that the examples are fairly transparent. They are self-explanatory. They are not very complex. So we have all been either working or have worked in various organizations, and all of us come with a lot of rich experience. So we will be able to relate to that. Okay, so there is nothing. HR is not rocket science. HR is human resources, and we are all humans. So we will be able to connect to the examples. So nothing complex over here. That's my assurance to you. Okay, I will share a PowerPoint, and we will, so that we are able to talk better in terms of the topics that we will be talking about today. Okay, any other expectations apart from Himanshu?
No, sir, I think Ganesh sir have something.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Miss, if any case studies, like some of the case studies can be shown so that we can relate with the practical manner.
See, so what I will do along, not today, but during the course of this program, what I will do is I will share some articles with you and some write-ups. So ideally, what would be expected is that you have read those, and then when you come and discuss, it would be better because we have a very short window, and we can discuss the case studies or the articles, but we may not have time to read it over here. Okay. So I will share those, and then you can read it and come back. Yes, Ganesh, you have a question.
yeah. I mean, I'm not sure how whether it is possible, but daily we see like whenever we are doing business to the other countries, there is a huge problem between cultural differences.
Yes.
And if we do not, I mean, adjust with their culture, I think individualism and collectivism that plays a big role. So I do find like many people, either they are working with me or are working with my team, they're reluctant to follow the cultural differences. So how we can manage that talent, or maybe from the L&D perspective, how it can be, I mean, induced to the people, if that can be a little bit, when I
Okay.
get some
Yeah,
help.
that's a very good question. Sure. That's a very good question, and if required, we can even connect after this class, separately one-to-one, if required. But we will come to one part in this program, which is going to be on learning and development. And in that section, we will talk about cultural sensitivity. Okay. So you are absolutely right. Today, the world is globalizing, and people are going from one country to another and learning about different cultural practices. So there are different models. So one famous model is the Hofstede model of understanding
Mhm.
culture. And so we can talk a bit about that, and then we can also talk about the aspect that you mentioned, individual versus collective cultures. And that
Mhm.
is very important, and I'm glad that you brought it out, because there are different cultures which are collective cultures, and there are some cultures which are individual centric cultures. And sometimes when we see cultural differences, we say that, okay, somebody is German, or somebody is French, or somebody is Indian. We don't realize that there are, beneath the French and German and Indian, there are sociological aspects of individualism and collectivism, which make a big difference. So we will come to that.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I think Anirban has joined. Anirban, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Yeah. So I am basically Anirban Roy. So yeah, I am basically associated with Nestle India and Limited, and working in L&D field. So basically as a data management, also in the talent team. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, great, Anirban. Welcome to this program. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, clearly.
Yes, sir. So visible.
Great. Okay, so when you hear talent management, what comes to your mind? Would anybody like to share?
Talent management is, sir, something which is to utilize what is the best talent available into the organization, the people who are there, how we can utilize their talents to gain maximum benefit for the organization. That is what is.
Yeah,
What
good.
is the,
Good, Abhishek. You get a virtual chocolate.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, so yes, like Abhishek said that every organization has a lot of talent, but how you are using that talent, is very critical. So so the art of managing talent well in an organization, that is what talent management is, and we will speak more about it as we go along. So here is a nice quotation. Given the journey that talent management is on, we do seem to need new answers to new problems rather than another retrofit of past practices. So as we are evolving, we are living through interesting times. Everybody is always talking about, what is everybody talking about nowadays? What is the big thing, the killer app,
Is it
or
is it
the big
AI?
revolution that is taking place? Yes,
Is it
absolutely,
AI?
Ganesh. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it is Gen AI, and everybody is talking about Gen AI, and I can also actually announce myself to be a bot. I'm not really a human being, and so people will digest that also. That okay, here is a bot which is teaching us. So, but no worries, I am a human being, and so we are all talking about Gen AI. We are talking about automation, we are talking about machine learning. All these things are happening while we are in this session. So, so we have to be cognizant about all the changes that are taking place, and how do we keep up with the change? So before we talk more about that, let's look at how people think about talent management. So here is Jack Welch. Anybody knows who Jack Welch was? Nobody knows him?
He's a management guru or something.
Yes, sir. G is the.
Yeah, G, absolutely, Naveen. Thank you. So Jack Welch was the CEO of GE. I also worked in GE for 6 years. So Jack Welch was the CEO from 1997 to 2001. And during his time as CEO for almost 25 years, in every quarter, GE posted double-digit growth. It could never be 9%. It would always had to be 10% and upwards every quarter for 25 years. He was one of the most successful CEOs ever in the corporate history. So here is a quotation from him. He said, "My main job was developing talent. I was the gardener providing water and other nourishment to our top 750 people. Of course, I had to pull out some weeds too." So basically, he's saying that, he did not do work himself, but he ensured that he had the right talent to do the work for himself, for him. So that's very important coming from a very successful CEO. Okay. Next, we have Peter Drucker. I'm sure everybody knows Peter Drucker. He's known as the ultimate guru of management. So he says developing talent is business's most important task, the sine qua non of competition in a knowledge economy. So sine qua non is the most important aspect, the most critical aspect of competition in a knowledge economy. So both these great people talk about knowledge management and about talent management. Talent management is very, very critical, particularly now when more and more people are working in the service industry, which is the knowledge industry. Any thoughts, anyone? Okay,
No,
if not, yeah, Vijay, you were saying something?
no, sir, no, sir.
So can I have just a small comment?
Yes, Ganesh, please go ahead.
Yeah, I echo with Abhishek what he said, that talent management is nothing but how to manage the talent to translate that into company's objective. But can we have something like how to manage the talent itself? I mean, there could be a lot of knowledge or talent in the organization, and then how to manage itself, like the change management, as you said, like in the company there could be a lot of knowledge, but now with the recent
Yes,
change
definitely.
coming.
We will talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will talk about it as we go along. So, so let's first understand, how talent management has evolved. It's sometimes very useful to, whenever you want to learn a topic, it's useful to understand history of the topic. Where did it come from? How did it evolve? So that really helps you understand better. So this term talent management was used sometime in the 1990s. I think it was used in an article in Harvard Business Review, and from there, by McKinsey in the McKinsey Quarterly, and from there it caught on, and it became, now a standalone department on its own. So this thing came up in the 1990s. So before we talk about how this came about, it's important also to understand one aspect of what we call strategy. Would anybody like to define what is strategy?
Is a set of planned action towards a desired outcome.
Okay, good, Naveen. A set of planned actions, to achieve a certain goal. So one aspect of strategy is differentiation. How do you differentiate yourself from others? For example, everybody is manufacturing a phone. Vivo is manufacturing a phone. Samsung is manufacturing a phone. Apple is manufacturing a phone. So how do they make sure that who wins? You make sure by ensuring there is differentiation. Apple is different from Vivo is different from Samsung is different from OnePlus. So they ensure differentiation, and that is one critical aspect of strategy. Okay, so now every organization has different aspects. It has its products, it has its people. So the people, are a very critical aspect of an organization, and that is what we will talk about. So connection between talent management and organizational effectiveness was established since the 1970s. Earlier, now let's go back in time to the beginning of the 20th century, which is 1901, 1910, 1920, 1930. So those days, you had an economy, and in the economy, you had a lot of products. You had cars getting manufactured, you had clothes getting manufactured, you had butter, cheese, all of these things getting manufactured, and all of this manufacturing was happening in a factory. And in a factory, you have maybe 1,000 people sitting on the shop floor doing the same thing. Okay, the same thing. Their productivity is measured in hours and in output. So suppose I am manufacturing clothes, I'm making clothes. So how many clothes was I able to stitch in 8 hours? So that would be my productivity. And every worker was producing something or the other. Now, gradually that started changing. The Second World War took place in 1939 to 1945. And after that, more and more people started working in the services, not in manufacturing, but in services. Okay. So more and more people started coming up in banks, in real estate, in sales. Then you had information technology emerging as a big industry. So as the service sector became more important, your output became more hazy. Who is productive, who's not? It became more hazy because in manufacturing, it's very clear. I produce this many products in one day, but in service sector, it's not easy to quantify. Okay, let's say I am a banker and I am a retail banker, so I can tell you the number of savings bank account I have opened. But let's say I am a customer service professional. I service people. Now, many people may be happy with my service, but they may or may not give me a rating. Okay. So in the service sector, it's not very clear in terms of how effective you are and how good you are at the work that you do. Okay. But the people aspect of service sector, see, in manufacturing, what happens is you have hardcore physical products in front of you. You can touch those products. But in services, the services that you are providing, they are sometimes, they are not touchable. They are not tactile. They are not something that you can touch, feel, smell. It's the service that has been provided. So you would know that in America, which is the biggest economy in the world, so people started shifting the GDP of America, and that is happening in India also. That has happened in China also. The GDP, more and more GDP started coming out from the service sector. Today, I think in America, only 4% of Americans are in agriculture, and about 25% are in manufacturing. The rest of the 70% are in service industry. Okay. In India, 65% of our GDP comes from service sector. Like Ganesh is from the IT industry. So IT industry, is about a $200 billion IT industry in India. And in IT, again, people are coding, and they are coding for, let's say, a banking software, let's say a retail software. And you have to do, let's say, 2000 hours of coding to come up with a product. Now, the product will be effective, which is very good, but there are 6 people who did the coding, and it's very difficult to point out who is the best coder among them. Okay. So therefore, what becomes a challenge is, how do you differentiate? We talked about strategy, we talked about differentiation. Now we are talking about differentiation in the people that you have, the talent that you have. Okay. So therefore, more and more companies started realizing in the service sector that the quality of people they have is a very important differentiator. Like earlier, you had, like even now in manufactured products, you have a good phone versus a not so good phone, an expensive phone versus a not so expensive phone. But the other aspect of the company is the kind of people they have in the company. Okay, that is very critical. So if you have some of the best people in your company, and you are able to, your talent management is effective, you are able to get good results from the people in your company, then your company is likely to be successful. Is it making sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
great.
sir. Hiring right talent is very important for the success, and then grooming them
Absolutely.
according to the need. That is,
Absolutely. Yeah. So grooming them, like Abhishek said, very important, and we will come to that. So while we right now we are speaking about the evolution of talent management, why it has become important. So now, as organizations grow, as organizations get more and more into service, even manufacturing organizations are more into service. Why? Because you are producing products, but how do you market those products? Marketing is a service. So therefore even manufacturing companies are heavily dependent on the service dimension of the work that they do. So marketing, sales, distribution, all of this is partly service. So therefore more and more people are reliant on services, and as we progress into the 21st century, we will see this is becoming more and more critical. So talent is a very important dimension of your business. You cannot ignore talent. Earlier in the 20th century, everybody was similar. Every worker sitting over there, if there are 10 workers who go away, you will get another 10 workers. But today you can't say that in a service industry. If 10 important people go away, then it's very difficult to replace them. If your top talent goes away, then it's very difficult to replace them. Okay. So therefore, one focus area became employee retention in a very strategic way. Earlier, there was no such thing as employee retention. Also because people used to work in one company for a lifetime. In the 30s, 40s, people used to work for a lifetime. Like my father was in the central government, and he worked, I think, for almost 40 years with the government. And even after retirement, he was a consultant, and he carried on for some time. So, and he could never think of working anywhere else. And similarly, there are a lot of employees even now in Japan and some other countries who enter a company and then they stay there for a lifetime. They never think of exploring opportunities for with some other company. But that is not the case for emerging economies like India, China, Vietnam, where people have multiple opportunities. And it's HR's responsibility, the talent manager's responsibility, the learning and development manager's responsibility to ensure that people stay longer in the organization. So I'm saying stay longer. I'm not saying that stay with the organization. Nobody will stay, but at least make them stay long enough. Because if people come and go, there is a huge wastage, because there is a hiring cost, there is a training cost. If somebody goes away, there is a latent knowledge they will go away with. So that is a loss. So there are multiple losses if people leave the organization. So therefore, retention is very critical. And keeping them motivated. How do you motivate? You excite them with great work. Learning and development is critical. I've been in learning and development for many years, and when I was in GE, which is today Genpact, those days it was JKIS. Very often business leaders would say, what does learning and development do? I don't see how is learning and development effective. So this is the question which used to come to us regularly. So one of the things that I and some of my colleagues did was we did a project that those people who went through our managerial programs, our frontline programs, managerial programs, and leadership programs, the employees who went through our programs versus the employees who did not go through the training programs, and we tracked the productivity of these two set of employees. And guess what we discovered? We discovered that people who go through the training programs, they are less likely to leave the organization. At an average, they spend 2 years more in the organization compared to people who did not go through the training. So that's a huge saving. If you are able to retain people for 2 more years, that's a huge saving. Okay. Another very critical point is you develop a strong organizational culture. So some organizations have a very powerful culture, and unfortunately many organizations don't invest in culture. But it's possible. When I joined the corporate world, I used to think these are just buzzwords. There is no truth in this. इसमें कोई सच्चाई नहीं है that there can be organizational culture, because culture is really, you find in countries, you find in society. You can't find a culture in an organization. But as I worked in various organizations, I realized that yes, every organization has a culture, whether it is a default culture or whether it is a culture that has been deliberately developed. That is where the challenge lies. We can develop a culture if we wish to, and the managers, the leaders, everybody contributes very significantly to developing a culture. And then you have career planning, performance management, etc. So that is a little bit about how talent management has evolved in the last century and how it is evolving today. Any thoughts so far?
I'd like to add what you have said. Most of the organization unconsciously create a culture. It's very rarely organization consciously go about the process.
You're right, Naveen, absolutely. And that is a bit unfortunate.
So added to what you just said, like you said, your father
Good
has
point.
been working
Anybody
around.
else would like to?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
Shiv, you said something?
Yes, as I was saying that added to your point that you shared, like your father had been working for the same organization for a long time. In fact, till the time he retired. So the same was a case for my father as well. And in fact, at that time, mostly in the, like as you have been talking for the era, in the early 1900s, India was a major manufacturing country, and the service industry was not there at that moment, like at such a large scale. Even though some portions of services or service companies were there, and I still remember my at that time, more than human resources, the department of human resources used to be termed as personal management, because they had to manage persons. So it was called as personal management.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And also personal management, one of their key jobs was payroll management. Whether people are getting paid on time, and whether the deductions are on time. So and making sure people had the leaves, tracking the leaves, things like that.
It was a very basic one. Yes, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. A very good point. So I started my career in media organizations, and I was well, I will not name them, but the human resource department was just payroll management. They did not do anything else. It never occurred to them that they are supposed to do something else. So, so you're right, absolutely. Great. Let's. So now sometimes what happens is, while we are talking about talent management, it's also important to keep in mind, though this is the first session, so therefore that is not that important. But one question you get in your exams is, what is the difference between talent management versus knowledge workers? You know, so this is a question which comes at times, and time to time we will also talk about the questions that you get in your exams. But since this is the first session, I'm not really bothered too much about that. However, this is a question that it's important to deal with at this point of time, because later on we may not cover this. So as I said, that talent management has evolved in the last about 40 50 years, and this has evolved mostly because of the growth of the service sector. Now within the service sector, you also have people who are known as the knowledge workers. People like we talked about the software industry. So anybody who's a programmer is a knowledge worker, because his key attribute or his competency is coding. Okay, so that's his key attribute or his key competency, that he can code, and coding is we know no software product would come without coding happening. So and in talent management is, so this is a very very important point, please keep in mind. When we talk about talent management, and people will ask you, what is the difference between talent management and general HR management? Because HR is also about people. Any thoughts on what is the difference between human resources management and talent management?
Sir,
Yes.
I think that human resources management is a very vast terminology, which is going to focus on each and every aspect. Correct. Talent management is one of the parts of that, I think. And basically talent management is one thing which you are focusing on top some people who are who have a different, they have a different idea, or who can have a different thing which the people are not thinking normally on that line. So that talent is something which you can nurture, and where you can give them the opportunities to implement that things which can take your organization to the next level, which the people are currently not. So that is something. Something means you have some people who are actually looking into that development and giving them that opportunity and platform to grow.
Good.
So
you have already taken my virtual chocolate. So yeah, who would like to go next?
So human
Yes,
resources,
yes,
who is working on different aspect of people related thing, like human resource, they are dealing into they are responsible for all the aspects of employees, like retention, attrition, or maybe you take about payrolls, employee escalations, ER and everything. They are responsible for all the aspect, but talent uh, talent management is something who is who is focusing upon the employee education and learning and development. So their responsibility at organization is to introduce different courses which are required as per the market. They need to ensure that all the employees who are eligible for those courses should take knowledge for those courses. Apart from that, they are involved into the strategy of the organization, that how we can be competitive, how our employees should be competitive enough so that we can beat the competition. Like if we talk about the current generative AI, so lots of organizations are introducing generative AI related courses. So their talent management teams are ensuring that this knowledge should be percolated at all the levels, so that everybody should be aware about these courses and these developments.
Okay.
So in my view,
Good, Geeta.
HR,
I think Madhu had raised her hand.
so
Yeah, Anand, go ahead.
yeah, so HR has to do with more about things or activities related to employees, just like salaries, payrolls, retention, and other stuff. While talent management is about who can do what in a better way and making them work in those areas where they are good at or improving them. So it is more focusing. Talent management is
Okay.
focusing
Yeah,
on the
good.
talent thing and the stuff which has to be performed. But HR is in general taking care of all the employees, irrespective of what they do and how they do. It is, this is my understanding.
Okay, great. I think Madhu had also raised her hand. Madhu, would you like to
Yes,
share?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, according to my perspective, HR has so many roles, just like a payroll, employee retention, grievance, cash, and so many others. And talent management may we have so many employees. One company has so many employees, and उसमें कुछ employee ऐसे भी हैं, they has talent, but वो फ्रंट में आने से एंड फ्रंट में ये सोचने से शाय होते हैं कि छोड़ो क्या करना है, बट दे हैव सो मेनी टैलेंट. सो जो टैलेंट मैनेजमेंट है उसका काम है कि एम्प्लॉय के टैलेंट को पहचानना एंड उसके टैलेंट की हेल्प से अपनी इंडस्ट्री को, अपनी कंपनी को टॉप तक ले जाना, एंड अगर उसमें कोई लैकिंग है एम्प्लॉय में तो उसको भी ग्रूमिंग करना, एनहेंस करना. थैंक यू सो मच.
Great, Madhu. Thanks. Yes. So all of you, are right. You talked about various dimensions of what talent management is. So, see, one key difference between HR. HR is very broad. HR covers all the people-related functions that happen in an organization. But as I was saying, that the heart of strategy is differentiation. And you may have 1,000 people in your company, but I think you would agree that all 1,000 are not same in their productivity. All 1,000 are not same in the initiative that they take. All 1,000 are not same in their capabilities. So there is a concept called the Pareto concept. Pareto was a social scientist, and he said that 80% of the output, sorry,
80-20 principle.
Yes, the 80-20 principle. He said, 80% of the results will come from 20% of the efforts. You may make many efforts. You may have 1,000 people in your company, but the top 20% will decide the 80% of the outcomes in your company will come from the top 20%. Okay, that is what Pareto talked about. So it is a very it's a very powerful and interesting concept, and basically tells you that the top 20% are your key people. That is your top talent, and you have to nurture them. Like you may have, let's say you have a finance portfolio, okay, and you may have shares, you may have fixed deposits, you may have real estate, you may have savings bank account, but one of those are going to be your best investments. So that is where you need to focus. Okay, so that is your top talent, and managing that talent is talent management. Okay, so it's a focused effort on nurturing your top talent versus HR, which nurtures everybody in the organization. So we will, in this course, talk about many things which have an overlap with HR. Okay, but our focus will be on how this is relevant for the top talent in your organization. Is that making sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. Just give me a minute. I think there is somebody at the door. I'll just be back. I am back. My apologies. Okay, so now why we are talking about knowledge workers versus talent management is because the knowledge workers are people who come very close to being your top talent, but they are not your top talent. Okay, so that's why there is a little bit of differentiation between the two. So the top talents are the principal creators in the organization. The people who are the best performers, they are the principal creators. They are the innovators. They are the people who take most of the initiative versus people who conserve those initiatives, which is knowledge workers. And here we are talking specifically about companies in the service industry. Your top talent generates new thoughts, new products, innovation, while the knowledge workers, they just devise. So generating versus devising something. Generating is high-end activity, devising is more transactional activity. Knowledge workers endorse change, which has been brought about by the top talents. Top talents invent while knowledge workers absorb those inventions. Okay, and top talents give directions while the knowledge workers operate on those directions. The top talent inspires versus the knowledge worker who takes the data and inspiration from the top talent. Okay, so this is something that you need to keep in mind if a similar question comes up in your exams. So this is something that you can keep in mind. Any questions on this?
No, sir, it's okay.
Okay, great. So these are some of the key aspects of creating a talent value chain. If you are a good human resource professional or a R&D professional, you will focus on creating a great talent value chain. And good HR professionals are known to create great talent value chains. For example, we have Infosys, which is now a very large and stable company. But when it was born in the late 1980s and growing in the 1990s, it was not easy for a company like Infosys trying to get a foothold in the software services, because those days India was not known for software services, and you had to get software programmers, you had to get good people to come to the company, and it was a challenge for the HR to ensure that they had the good people, they could retain the good people, and introduce world-class HR processes in the company. Even today, I think Infosys, Cognizant, Wipro, these are all Indian companies which are doing global business. And one reason they are able to do that global business is because they have very robust HR processes and practices. So you have to attract and hire the right talent. You have to ensure that you get the best talent from the market. Then once you get the best talent, it's not easy retaining the best talent, because good talent is always looking for opportunity. Good talent is always looking for growth. Can you give that opportunity? Can you give that growth? So it's it's very challenging for HR to get good talent and then retain that good talent. I will just share a small anecdote. Once being in learning and development and training, sometimes training and hiring don't get along very well. Training and hiring are at loggerheads with each other, because hiring tries to hire whoever who falls within the specifications: graduate, 5 years experience, has worked in tier 1, tier 2 companies, that's it. Go get the guy. But when you look at them from a training perspective, you discover that they may or may not be a good profile. So I was always at loggerheads with the hiring manager. We were very unhappy with each other. We would never say, we would say hi, but very coldly, and we would never have tea with each other. Moment I would see him, I would turn around and go away, and moment he would see me, he would turn around and go away. I was saying that he's getting bad talent into the company, and he would say that this is all that is available in the market. So one day we had a big, not so friendly exchange of emails. He accused me of being very picky, very fussy, and I accused him of settling for poor quality, which is compromising the organization. Then he said something very interesting. He said that, look, I can go and get the best talent from the market, but will you be able to retain that best talent? Because best talent is very difficult to retain. So what I do is I deliberately take the second best. I don't go for the third best, but the second best, because the second best is not so difficult to retain as the first best. And they don't get too many offers in the market. They are more stable, and therefore they will give us better results. While the top talent will be people who may always be looking out for growth and more money and more opportunity. So for the first time, I realized that there is some sense in what he's saying. Okay. But that's still debatable. I'm not saying that this is the gospel truth. That is still debatable. However, that is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that if you take the second best profile and then you nurture them to become the best profile, that is how a good HR department would ensure that you have great talent in the company. People who may not be the people coming from tier 1 management institutes. Maybe they are coming from tier 2 management institutes, but the way they are groomed, I think somebody had mentioned when we talked about when we were doing the introductions, that grooming is very important, how you groom them. And that is what the talent management department is supposed to do. How do you groom the people who have potential? We will talk about the difference between performance and potential. And it's important to recognize the potential at an early stage and nurture that potential. And that is what talent management is supposed to do. So you identify and develop existing talent and then create a leadership pipeline in the company. You create a succession plan in the company. Who will take over from whom? So see, we talked about Jack Welch, and for good or for bad, I am influenced a lot by Jack Welch. I've read his books, and he said something which I took to heart. And later on, I realized that any principle you take to heart, you should do it with a few riders. You should do not take it completely lock, stock, and barrel. You should understand which context it has come from. So he said that every senior person should work towards making themselves redundant. Okay, you should work towards making yourself redundant so that you are not required in the role that you are doing. And that was true in a very, very large company like GE, that you make yourself redundant, because once you make yourself redundant, your team will be able to take over your responsibilities and you can grow to the next level or even move horizontally to another responsibility. But when I use that principle in a smaller organization, which was a domestic organization, I worked towards making myself redundant. The HR manager came and said, "Sir, what are you doing? You will be without a job if you make yourself redundant. You cannot teach all your second line everything that you know and give them all the responsibility. You can delegate, but don't delegate everything. Otherwise, there will be nothing for you. And I realized that, yes, that made sense. So therefore, every principle has to be accepted along with the context in which that principle has evolved. Okay? Don't accept anything blindly. Understand a concept, but also understand the context of that concept. So therefore, you create a leadership pipeline, ensure redundancy, but in a controlled way. Don't make the leaders redundant. So then they won't have much to do, and the organization will feel that they are not adding value. But create it in such a way that, let's say, there is a good, talented person who is the assistant manager today. So you create a pipeline for that person to grow to manager in the next 2 to 3 years and can take over managerial responsibilities. So structure it well. Okay. And one very important thing, human beings love challenges. Good performers, they love challenges. Give a good challenge and you will have a lot of people, lapping up that opportunity and doing well. So recently, we have, a new person for our Bangalore office, the company where I work today. And so one of our clients asked him that, why have you joined this company? Why not some other company? What brings you here? So the new person who has joined, he gave a very smart answer. He said that I like challenges and I see that there is a challenge over here. Performance needs to improve quickly. And therefore, I have taken this opportunity. So challenging tasks are something which excites people, particularly good performers, and they love to take it up. Okay. Any thoughts, any observations on key aspects of talent value chain?
Sir, you just talked about the succession planning. So do you think like that succession planning will be then dangerous? Or it is not good? I mean, I'm just seeing the example of Mr. Narayan Murthy, who planned his succession, but later on again came and, like what happened about the Mr. Sikka.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, what do you think about that?
Yes, you're right, Ganesh. Sometimes succession planning does not go as you had planned it. So yes, Mr. Narayan Murthy had to come back, but I think now they are very stable. Mr. Parekh is there, and Infosys has again become very stable. And you can see that in the last 6 months, their shares have gone up, 30% in value, and they're doing quite well. I think their revenue is about $18 billion, which is very, very big by Indian standards. And, so they are, so succession planning at times can go wrong. You're absolutely right. But if your internal processes are robust, they are strong, then it can take the hit. It can take the damage with succession planning gone wrong. But if your internal processes are not strong, then it may not be able to take the hit and may not be able to survive. So Infosys has survived, I think, because of the strength of its internal processes.
Yeah, got it, sir. Thank you.
Great. Let's move on. So these are some areas that we will be covering. Workforce planning. You have to look at, how many people do you need, in what functions, with what level of experience, with what level of talent. Then you have to explore, how do you recruit and reach out to the best talent in the market. How do you develop your employees? How do you do leadership development? So this is now very, very important. It's becoming more and more important as we speak, because like I talked about the Pareto principle, you have 20% people delivering 80% of the results in a company. And these are your leaders. So leaders have a disproportionate influence and impact on every company. So if you have good leadership profiles, then chances are that your company will grow. But if your people are not able to take up leadership responsibilities, then the company may not be very scalable. I have seen a lot of people who have very big designations, executive vice president, senior vice president, co-chairman, but they on the ground they operate like very transactionally. They are they're not even good managers. Forget about being leaders, because they just Anand, you have a question.
So it's not a question, just want to share one thought that in most of the cases in organizations, when we talk about challenges, seeking challenges, or person who is more kicked by challenges, so the culture, the very culture and the environment and the capability of those leaders in HR setup, uh, they also need to be kind of uh, capable to look at employees, how what kind of employees they have. So most of the time, what happens that people are assessed at the uh, uh, by their current job for promotions, not from the perspective that they are capable for different kinds of like in the echelons, higher echelons. So in that way, it's very challenging to retain people, because they are looking for some of the like lower level managers or something. They are looking for challenges and they are not finding it, and people are judging them on in terms of how they are performing in their own job. This is the kind of situation we see or in most of the cases.
Yes, and you are absolutely right. Very often, like earlier, I had made a point. There is a difference between performance and potential, and performance is a very important indicator. But also, it's important to understand their potential and evaluate. Give them opportunities which are as per their potential, what they can do. So it's very important to be aware and sensitive to that. Yes, Ganesh, you have a question.
Yeah, I mean, you said like there are sometimes a situation like the people hired for the very high designation goes wrong. So, would you think, I mean, where could have been organizations going wrong for selection of such people? Is it something like the selection criteria that they have maybe not sufficient? Or is it something like they are just looking at the qualification? Or is it like just they are looking at the experience? Or how it could be? Just trying to understand your perspective.
See, that's a very good question. And sorry, just complete your question.
Yeah, that's it, sir.
Okay. So yeah, that's a very good question, and I think you brought in the example of Vishal Sikka, who was the head of Infosys, and why it went wrong. So it's actually, it could be subject of a case study as to why it went wrong. But one of the things I've seen is that, Mr. Sikka came from a company, I think in Germany or
He was
somewhere.
a Stanford, I mean, he was a
And
Stanford person. And even I
yeah,
mean, he
yeah,
was
that
very
that
good
was his
in
education.
America.
But yeah, okay. Uh, so he had come from a very structured environment. Sometimes what I have seen personally is that having worked in both MNCs and Indian companies, people who work for many years in MNCs, they get used to fixed processes and procedures. And and they, there is a lot of comfort in that, because there is a lot of predictability in the business, that after this is the process map, this is what I'm supposed to do, everybody is aware of it, there is no lack of clarity, there is alignment, etc., etc. But when you come to an organization which is not so process driven, where it is people driven, so then you have to negotiate your way around. You have to talk to the finance controller and say, look, this is the project I want to do. This is the sponsorship that I need. Or you go to the quality person and say that, okay, the quality person may tell you that, okay, these are the specs you need to adhere to. If there is fluctuation, then this is the way you need to work around, etc. But in a more structured environment, all these things are, given by default. You don't negotiate your way. So many people who work in a very structured environment, they are not able to uh, become successful in an unstructured environment or a less structured environment. And that is one reason I've seen that a lot of people who work in large MNCs who hold very senior positions, they come to a different organization with a different culture, and they are not able to adjust. So their earlier success does not get replicated over here, because their earlier success took for granted that there is going to be this level of organization, process orientation in the company. It is not going to be people dependent, but less organized cultures are people dependent, negotiation dependent. And therefore, that's one of the reasons why they don't succeed, because there is a radical change which is required to adjust to this new environment. So I hope that is making sense.
Yeah, I mean, only one point I can see, like he came from the US, which is an
Mhm.
individualism country, I think.
Mhm.
And then he get mixed into India, where I think collectivism is very important. And most of the decisions what he took, I think he did not took
Yeah.
the others' consent.
Yes, absolutely.
And that probably has hampered to the
Mhm.
Narayan Murthy to come back and then intervene into the decision making.
Right.
Yeah, I think that right perspective, I got it. Yeah, thank you,
Mhm.
sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, Naveen, you have a question.
So it's just more of an observation.
Mhm.
Companies should create new positions for the new talents. The current scenario, instead of
Mhm.
trying to fix or trying to shape the employees into the fixed position, no matter which cadre it is in, company should
Mhm.
innovate the position. Say, for example, of my favorite author is Devdutt Patnaik, and he was called as a chief belief officer. It's completely a new
Oh,
position in the corporate world. So
yeah.
companies should be innovative in creating, because people come with a variety of talents. They accumulate this talent through various forums. Instead of old position, people they should be innovative in catering to this need.
Yes, good thought, Naveen. Very much required in today's world, because we are going through many changes. Also, what we are seeing is, like, after COVID, you have work from home, work from office. These are, work from home was not there earlier. Then today you have the gig economy. Many people are working only for, project specific. They are not really employed by a company. They are paid as per the output that they do for a company. Many people are consultants, so the nature of work is changing, and like now you have another profile called CTO. It's not chief technology officer, it's chief talent officer. Like you spoke about Devdutt Patnaik being the chief belief officer. So, yes, new designations are coming up. More importantly, new structures are coming up. The earlier height-bound structure, top to bottom, left to right, right to left, hierarchy. A lot of things are changing. The hierarchy is becoming more fluid, and uh, so those of you who have worked in software environments may be familiar that if when you're doing a project, the project manager is the most senior person in the project, and there can be maybe the project manager is at a manager level, and there can be a general manager in that project, contributing to maybe HR or finance or whatever in that project. But in that project, though he or she is the general manager, but she will be reporting into the manager, the project manager, because the project manager is the you know complete control of the project and is the chief decision maker in that project. So hierarchy and is getting changed, and there are situation is more fluid now, and people are valued in terms of the skills and competency they bring to the table, not in terms of education. So I may be very educated, but am I able to translate that education into profits for the company? If I'm not, then my education is not very useful for the company, and the company will not reward me just for being educated. So therefore, the whole valuation of talent, of skills and competencies, that has changed. So I hope that is helpful. Okay, so employee retention is very critical. How do you engage, motivate? How do you make work arrangements versatile? And then how do you develop critical skills and competencies? And finally, manage knowledge. Knowledge is also, just like talent, knowledge is also a key differentiator. For companies to be good, they need to be good at knowledge management. So these are some key processes that we will deal with, planning, attracting and selecting, developing, learning and development, performance management, appraisals, retention, and succession planning. So we will have 10 lectures. Today is the first one, and rest of the lectures will be based on each of these topics. And finally, we will have one last session where we will just summarize what we have learned and any questions that you may have. So this is what overall learning and talent management looks like, and the role that learning and development has. Very often what happens is people interchange talent management with learning and development, but learning and development is a component of talent strategy and talent management. So on one end you have HR systems, and the other end you have compensation and compensation planning, etc. And in between, you have all these pillars. You have business strategy, talent strategy, target metrics and measurement, your process governance, how you are ensuring the process and the systems that you have in place. Okay. So this is very important. And then you have learning and development at the base. So learning and development is very critical because this basically sets the tone of what are the changes you can make in terms of competency enhancement and skill development. So starting with onboarding, management training and operational training, leadership curriculum, you may have an e-learning strategy, etc. And then you have coaching, mentoring, developmental assignments, etc. So learning and development is a very, very, very important pillar of talent strategy. Okay, so this is basically a bird's eye view of what talent management really looks like. So that brings us to the close of today's session, and any questions you have. So I think this is something that we have already talked about. Many of you shared very valuable insights. So that's really, something that we could profit by. Anybody would like to share their experiences of talent management in their organization, how they have seen it take place, any gaps that they see in it, which you think you can plug. So anybody would like to share?
So may I try?
Yes, surely, please go ahead.
So, I have worked in many organizations because I have an 18-year career. I worked in many organizations, and barring probably one organization only, I'm not going to name, but I have seen HR to be treated. I'm not saying HR is, but HR is only treated as a tertiary department or a support department. And the kind of value or the kind of involvement a HR team should have within the organization, that importance is not given. And I'm sure you have heard a lot of memes about HR on social media and other places, whereas HR is not that. And I can tell that because I personally am now working as a talent management person and a manager for the last year or so. But and there are many organizations who don't see HR as to be an important department to be involved in or get them involved, and they are like, okay, at the starting we are there because we are onboarding you, and we are only there when you're facing issues or challenges or problems, or at the last when you are you have to give an exit interview or when you have to resign or something. I think like during your sessions with us that you're going to have in future, if you could share some ideas, some tips, how do we change this thought process?
Sorry, Shuli, I lost you at the end. You said
Um,
ideas.
yeah, I would say that if you could share some ideas, some thoughts, some tips, any experiences, how do we change this thought process of HR not being an important department or an active department of any organization?
Okay, good. Uh, so Ganesh, I will come to you. I will just, I think Shuli has raised an important point. Uh, and you're right that, HR is not given the due importance, which it deserves. Uh, there is also, I feel that sometimes HR people themselves underplay themselves. They also feel that because they are not in sales or in production, so they are tertiary or they are secondary, which should not be the case. You should demand your right to be heard, to be important as much as anybody else should. That's one aspect. Second aspect I feel is that there is a difference between mature organizational cultures and not so mature organizational cultures. Personally, I feel that there are cultures, there are organizations, and this is one differentiation I use, though it is not there in management books. But this is what I've experienced because I have about 29 years of work ex.
Right.
That organizations which give value to intangibles, intangibles like employee motivation, like the brand awareness that they have in the market, that appreciating a valuable employee, caring for social responsibilities. I see that these kind of organizations which treasure the intangibles along with the tangibles, everybody loves to look at their revenue numbers. Everybody loves to clap for their margins, their revenue margins. But not too many people clap for the corporate social responsibility tasks. Not too many companies clap for the best employee. If not, fine, some people clap for the best employee, but not the second best employee. So organizations which have that level of sensitivity, who appreciate the intangibles, such organizations tend to be more successful. And I have worked in IBM Daksh, which is today Concentrix. One of our clients, I worked there for 8 years, and one of our clients was Amazon. And I can tell you, there is a reason why Amazon is what it is today. Because they have been my clients from 2007 to 2015. And they look at the smallest detail possible. They look at every aspect of training and evaluate every aspect of training. And if it is good, they give you credit for that. It's not for nothing that Amazon has grown to be such a giant company today. because they look at all the intangibles. While most companies, they think that the only department which matters is sales or operations, and everybody else is secondary. Everybody else is just chalta hai, But sales, because sales department loves to think that agar hum nahi hote to company nahi hoti. We are the most important guys because we are getting the numbers. And operations, because they feel that we are the engine of the company. अगर हम नहीं चलते तो गाड़ी रुक जाती. Whereas I feel that every department is like an organ of the body. You cannot run the body without the lungs or the liver or the kidney, whatsoever. So everybody plays a very critical role. And HR needs to demand its respect on the table, while at the same time also, showing how much value can be created by HR through talent management, through retention, through innovative ways of uh, giving people exposure, and many other things which we will discuss. But I hope, Shivli, it's making sense.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it has been. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Welcome. Yeah, Ganesh, you have a point.
Yeah, actually, see, I think the HR, I think you have also shared some examples. Like previously, it was known as a personal department or HR department. So I think if we see this evolution, generally, I mean, people have seen that HR means something like function of fear. And then
your voice
other
is
than
too
that,
low, Ganesh.
Okay, just is it okay now?
Better.
Yeah, I mean, it's a function of fear, and I think on the multiple, I mean, there were changes, and HR needs to be a function like go-to function. And now also,
Right.
if you see in many companies, people are just thinking like HR means something like managing the resources, controlling the resources, but they do not accept the changes. Those are happening in the market. So
Right.
the change of perspective needs to be changed. And nowadays, I think the HR resource management or HR has have a big definition, like the talent management, the resource management, or hiring. So they need to change that perspective also. And the most important, I think, as I said, like this function needs to be as a go-to function. Nowadays, also, I mean, if you see in many companies, people hardly go to HR and express their any concerns. So the change management needs to be, I think, very active in HR as well. Yeah, I mean, that is
Yes,
what I think.
I agree with you. Very often, HR is not accessible, and people fear going to HR because if they have a problem, they feel that that problem, instead of getting solved, will be formalized, and it will be noted in their file that this person had this problem. So yeah, valid point. I think HR also needs to be more accessible, needs to be more of an enabler rather than just being a process controller. I think one thing that one shift that needs to happen is earlier you had talked about the collective versus the individual. Similarly, also there is just like you have the dichotomy between collective and individual. Similarly, there is a dichotomy between hierarchical and fluid structures. You command and control versus the role of influence. So the command and control mindset has to go away.
Correct.
And HR has to be more approachable. So I know a lot of people in traditional organizations where HR has the command and control mindset. I told you so. This is the structure that is given. You come on this time. If you don't, you will be marked half day.
Yes.
Things like that. So that needs to be removed. So surely, with apologies to you, I think there are some changes that HR will also need to make. Yes, Anand.
Yes, I just want to share that in today's era of consultancy culture, most of the organization look for uh, anything which they want to bring in their organization towards consultancy, and that somehow uh, forbid the possibilities of uh, originating the real and effective and felt need based changes in the organization. If they need some training and other things, they look for consultancy. If they need for HR structure, they don't rely on existing HR people. Rather, they bring experts to bring about changes in their HR structure or processes. So these culture also doesn't allow the effective and originating from from inside. These changes doesn't bring allow this thing to happen. That also affects HR processes a lot and people.
Definitely. I agree with you that there is a lot of consulting culture which has come into various organizations, and people are availing of the consulting opportunities, and maybe some of the talent is there within their own existing departments rather than seeking it out from outside. But the grass is always greener outside, so people avail of those opportunities. But great, thank you, Anand, and thanks everyone. So I think we have come to the close of our session. I hope you found it useful. So great, thanks for the thumbs up.
Thank you very much, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Great interacting with you, and look forward to our sessions in the coming weeks. Have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.